Steppenwolf? Have you begun the conquest?
This world is divided. There are primitive species, unevolved and at war with one another, too separate to be one. Their free will must be ripped from them, like the other worlds, given absolution in one glorious belief, to serve him.
The Mother Boxes.
Hello and welcome to another bonus edition of Bargain Binge podcast, where we just kind of riff and have a little bit of fun. I'm Dylan, and I got to introduce my co-host, but I've noticed while listening through the past episodes and editing them that there has been next to no profanity said by these two, which is just unacceptable considering that we are covering such a gritty, edgy movie today. So I'd like to ask when they introduce themselves to throw me some profanities. Yeah, okay. So here we go. So first with me, as always, is...
I'm Evan. And, you know, fuck, I don't know. You put me on the spot, man.
He said it. There we go. And you also heard him. Who is that?
Oh, it's me, Aaron, the shit fucker.
Yes, let's do it. If Batman can say fuck, then there's no excuse for you guys to not say fuck. Because that's right. We today are talking about Zack Snyder's cut of Justice League. But before we get there, we've got to talk about our movies for the week, and this is just something that we've watched recently, preferably something that we watched on disc that we have to talk about. Would either of you like to go first?
What have I watched?
Yeah, well, you know, Evan's a loser who never consumes anything because he sucks. Now I recently watched, once again, both, I guess, Princess Bride and When Harry Met Sally, which are both Rob Reiner movies.
Yeah.
And sometimes I forget that Rob Reiner's, like, one of the best filmmakers ever.
Oh, yeah.
Like, this is Spinal Tap is, like, amazing, and so is Princess Bride. And When Harry Met Sally is probably the best romantic comedy ever made. He had a streak there of like the most baller shit you could possibly make. And my girlfriend has a DVD copy of When Harry Met Sally, and I watched Princess Bride on Disney Plus. You know, I guess DVD quality does, you know, on a proper movie, it's never going to be like a god-awful rip or anything, but you do always kind of notice that 480p, which is why it's become impossible for me to, like, buy DVDs unless I absolutely have to. It's Blu-rays only, and soon to be 4K stuff once I get that 4K player in. And, you know, once 4K becomes my standard, I don't have to worry about upgrading, because it will not matter for the rest of my life, probably, till the hologram movies come out on floppy or whatever.
I can only hope that the PS5 is actually good at playing those.
Yeah, I hope so.
What, the floppy holograms?
Oh, yeah. Yes. It's my the PS5 will be my intended player of both video games and movies, as the PS3 and PS4 were. And PS2, and when I listen to CDs on the PS1.
Oh, hell yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rob Reiner, just simply the best. Stand By Me, Misery.
Yeah, Stand By Me is one of my favorite movies of all time. It's fantastic.
Yeah, that's like one of the first movies I saw as a kid that I was like, what? Like, oh, wow. Huh.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. It's sad that he disappeared on that boat 30 years ago or whatever. But... He produced some really baller content when he was around, and I was happy to reminisce, because like The Princess Bride is like the most, very few movies I would just call adorable, but that's The Princess Bride. it's so gentle and kind, and it's funny. Like, it's very funny, but it's just so, like, genuine about stuff, because it shows that you can be jokey and comedic in your content, but you can still tell the story like it means something and not be, like, ironic about it. That movie just still hits me really well. Both the incredible performance by one Andre the Giant.
Beat it, or I'll call the Brute Squad.
I'm on the Brute Squad.
You are the Brute Squad.
Super fun action stuff. The action's super cartoonish and strange sometimes. But that, like when both Wesley and Inigo Montoya swing on like a monkey bar and do a flip during their sword fight.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's just extremely genuine, and it's also the case with When Harry Met Sally. Is that it's an incredibly genuine, earnest movie, and it's why it like works. Because it's funny, and it's very funny, but it doesn't. It never like takes away from like the core relationship. And the great thing about it is they're friends for like most of the movie, and so that you see them relate to each other as people. It's not just I saw you and you're attractive and now we're in love, and then I piss you off and at the end of the movie, and then I make a grand gesture to make you feel better. It's, people meet each other, they have their differences, they become friends, and eventually they realize that, they have something more there. And I don't know, you don't see that often, and you don't see something as genuine and funny as Princess Bride anymore, really. I should have gotten that Criterion version of Princess Bride. That movie's great. I need a higher version of it.
Yeah, that's it's like a nice like storybook kind of case on it too. It's pretty good package. Well, Evan, do you have something, or do you want me to go first? And you still need to fucking think about it.
No,
you have all week.
Well, see, I was preparing mostly just for the Justice League conversation. I completely forgot that part of this was just things that we've watched, but I have some. So I'll say I rewatched Monster House.
Oh yes, I forgot about that.
Which is awesome, and
yes.
I don't know why, but there's this like, at least what it seems like to me, there's this weird like stigma around it where it's like meme trash and just bad, like. But it's just actually a really great movie. I think the reason for that is because of the animation is so like jarring and kind of like gross. It's not even like that it's bad. It's just like a different style that people are just not used to seeing, I think.
I think it's just there's a tendency for anything from the 2000s to be memes because Zoomers are just doing nostalgia.
Yeah, I think anything that played on Cartoon Network 40 times a day kind of ends up in the same category.
Which this did. Very much did.
Yes, it did.
I think a revelation that both Aaron and we both watched it, had it at the same time, was that we had never actually seen it like front to back before. We'd only ever seen parts of it on Cartoon Network. And just kind of, just different pieces here and there led us to believe that we'd seen the whole thing. But like, it's absolutely great. It's like, it's funny. It's legitimately has great comedy. The characters are really likable.
Amazing Douglas Pipe score.
Yeah, the Douglas Pipe score just absolutely slaps.
The best.
He's just killing it. He's one of the best in the business. Trick or Treat, it has an amazing score, and Krampus, they both have great scores. So that's awesome. And it has a lot of really, it's like shot for horror. Like it's actually made for horror. It's good children's horror. I feel like people don't give it credit for that, where they're just like, oh, it's a house, it has a mouth. I remember specifically when I was a kid, the scene where, I forget the old crotchety guy's name, but Steve Buscemi voices him, when his wife like falls into the foundation of the house and the cement goes over her, that shit stuck with me for so long. I thought that was just like horrifying. And the funny part was, when I rewatched it, I was expecting to get that same sort of like visceral reaction, but the fact of the matter is that they don't show any of it. She just falls, and then it's more of just the implication of that made me like scared as a kid. So it was amazing to see like just how little they showed of that and how much it affected me. Yeah. And that's, I think, is like just good filmmaking.
That makes me think about the fact that, like, when I was a kid, I remember, because like I watched horror movies from a pretty young age, but like watching horror trailers always scared me when I went to the movie theater, because my brain always filled in that like Saw 5 must be the scariest movie ever. And
Right.
Because like the trailer shots just have these implications that it's like the most horrifying possible thing, and then later when I finally actually watched all the Saw movies, I was like, oh, these are not scary at all.
Yeah, they're not.
They're fun.
It's gross.
Yeah, but especially when you're a kid, you're like, oh, whoa, what? Oh my god.
That's all added by like the one kid at lunch that his parents just let him watch anything, and he's like, "It's the scariest thing." There's a guy that gets run over by a saw blade. It's crazy.
Yeah, and you have all these pictures in your head, and then you watch it. It just doesn't come off like that.
And not to, I do advocate for, I don't always love when I don't get to see a kill or something of that nature in like, in horror, but there's something to be said about the opposite, where if you can effectively still create that sort of sensation without even showing anything, that's an accomplishment in and of itself. Which is, weirdly enough, this is just a weird tie-in. I mentioned Trick or Treat because it has a Douglas Pipes score, and I was just reading some trivia factoids about that the other day, and apparently not a single kill in that movie is shown on screen, which is not something I ever thought about.
Oh yeah. Huh.
But it's still great, and like you're shown things. But yeah, I don't know. That was just interesting. I was like, oh wow, I never even thought about it. Because typically, I feel like I would have been like, oh, that's lame. Let me see what happens. But it's presented in such a way that it doesn't even matter.
Yeah, I feel like Monster House is something that got in on the ground floor of 80s nostalgia, which is something we've been plagued with for the past at this point it's been like they started it early. They started earlier than the 30-year cycle, and they're at the 2000s, and we're still fucking clinging on to that shit. But that's a movie that uses 80s influences but doesn't overdo it, and it just kind of has that Amblin kind of feel to it, and I think that's an Amblin movie.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, but I mean, that just because Steven Spielberg produced it doesn't necessarily mean it's gonna be like that. But
yeah, I mean, he produced the Michael Bay Transformers movies.
Oh God. It's just this wonderful confluence of all these different elements from all these different creatives. Do you know who wrote this movie, Dylan?
No.
Dan Harmon.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense if you
think about it. Yeah. And I like early Rick and Morty stuff, not so much now, but I was just like, oh wow, it's legitimately really
Community's good.
Yeah, Community's good.
It's legitimately a really funny movie, and it's just great from top to bottom. I was pleasantly I remember liking it a lot, and I remember it having that effect on me, but I was just very pleasantly surprised to be like, oh, this is just a really good movie.
That's a movie that add that to the list of Warner Brothers movies that aren't on Blu-ray and need to be put on Blu-ray.
Is it not on Blu-ray?
It's I have the DVD because it's not on Blu-ray.
Dang,
jeez.
I have it from like I got that for like Christmas, so it was like fresh on DVD. So it has like a gimmicky slip cover with like a spinning wheel where the mouth on the house is open and then it's closed.
Great.
It's
the
great.
The design of the house is awesome too.
Yes,
it's so well like thought out. It's really great, really good stuff. Perfect child horror, get you into it.
Oh, I just want to quickly note that me and Evan recently consumed horror classic Geely.
You see, Aaron, I avoided bringing that up because I thought it would be a perfect topic for the box office bombs.
Oh, that's, we should save most of the content for, we will eventually talk about box office bombs, but I just want to say, that is pure cinema from beginning to end.
It is. It's fantastic. And by fantastic, I mean one of the worst things I've just about ever seen.
It also ties into Kangaroo Jack in really interesting ways. They both came out the same year, or the same kind of studio desperately cut this to shit movie, but there's like a bunch of weird tie-ins in terms of like content and even actors and performances and names. It's really weird.
It's bizarre. They're two movies that are on the same wavelength.
That's really interesting. I look forward to hearing more about that. But yeah, this episode was going to be box office bombs, but then we had all seen the Snyder Cut, and it's like, okay, gotta
do it.
Record it now, so when it comes out, whenever the fuck this is coming out, because we preload this pretty hard, it won't be months out of date. It'll only be embarrassingly. It'll only be a little embarrassing.
Yeah, it'll be right in there with like Red Letter Media's timeliness on stuff like that.
Yeah, that's true. We could be doing a lot worse, but so we can get to the Snyder Cut eventually. My film pick for the week is John Carpenter's Ghosts of Mars, which I picked up because it was on sale at Amazon. It's the movie that made John Carpenter leave Hollywood for a very long time before he came back to do The Ward, and it's pretty obvious why. Because when you think Carpenter, you think like slow, procedural, like order of shots and how it's edited, and shots will linger. And we've talked about that on the last bonus episode, but there's just shots where someone will just be walking across a room. Usually toward the camera, and instead of just seeing the whole action of them walking, there's like 3 to 5 cuts with cross dissolves on the same shot.
Oh,
it's the editing is just like an absolute hack job, and I feel like there's a reason he left the studio system after that, because they fucked with it a lot. But at the same time, the stuff coming from him isn't that great either. And it's just kind of like a mishmash of his previous movies, primarily Assault on Precinct 13. But it was supposed to, how there was theoretically going to be a Escape from New York sequel set in space, right?
Yes. Escape from Planet Earth, or whatever it was called.
Yeah. Well, that's Ghosts of Mars. It's supposed to. It was supposed to have Snake Plissken in it, but Columbia wouldn't let them use Snake Plissken because Escape from L.A. did so poorly. So it just got turned into just being a new character played by Ice Cube.
He could have just gone ahead and made the second Escape from New York movie, the space one, and not just remade the first one in L.A.
What's the vague just premise? I don't know anything about it.
It's hard to wrap your head around, because there's a certain level of John Carpenter, like he admits, like, I don't know how much of it is just covering his own ass, but he's like, yeah, he's kind of trying to lean into like schlockiness and being kind of dumb, but the extra factors that make a movie like that wasn't important, just to have an engaging action movie and the rest can be dumb, is what he said in interviews. But I don't know about that. But it's a girl is recounting the story of how she was on like an elite team that went, I don't know why they went to this place, I forget. I think they were just checking out like this ghost town to see if anyone was there, and then they uncover a like ancient death cult on Mars, and they're all like cannibals, like that kind of, like inbred monster race of people on Mars. And that's the premise, and then it just comes down basically to the demon people like sieging them. They're at a prison, which is where they find Ice Cube and a bunch of people. It's the plot isn't really, I can't describe it super well, but there's a certain point where there is, because the whole thing is told with the bookend that it's a flashback, and she's explaining it to like some court marshals, because they're like, why did everyone die? Why are you're the only survivor?
Okay.
So with that in mind, there is a point where there is a flashback inside of a flashback inside of a flashback.
I did not expect that third layer.
Yeah, 3 whole layers. It's absurd, but I mean, it's not. I wouldn't even say it's the worst John Carpenter movie I've seen. It's just it's strange. It's worth a watch just because it's weird. The score is actually done by John Carpenter, Anthrax, Steve Vai, and Buckethead. So it's like this who's who of like studio guitarists and Anthrax.
Steve Vai? Wow.
Yeah, and they just came into the studio, and there's a behind-the-scenes feature on the Blu-ray showing them doing it, and it just seems that they were just kind of improvising the whole thing, and it just keeps cutting back to John Carpenter in the producer's chair going like, yep, that's awesome, yep.
That's funny, because I know Steve Vai from the 1980s Ralph Macchio movie Crossroads, which is a like Devil Came Down to Georgia song as a movie.
Okay.
And Steve Vai is the devil playing the guitar at the end. It's pretty fun in like a 80s forgotten B thing way, but it's pretty good. It's from the director of The Warriors and 48 Hours and stuff, Walter Hill.
Oh, okay. But the other thing I wanted to note about Ghost of Mars before we move on, there's on the IMDb trivia there was something referencing an interview that Ice Cube did like years later, and in the interview he was like, "Yeah, Jar Carpenter let us down, man. The effects in that movie looked real bad," and that just made me so mad.
It doesn't do that, man. That's not what he's in charge of.
That's not what the director does. And first of all, and second of all, there's not really that many like digital effects in that movie, because I read that before I started watching and I was keeping an eye out, and it's mostly just pretty well done like practical effects that done by Greg Nicotero. So that pissed me off on a lot of levels. Yeah.
Oh, no, that's cool. I mean, that guy's pretty fucking dope. So just to throw a little more language in this podcast.
Yeah, but that pissed me off, but whatever. He's not good in that movie, too, and I think that's what really set me off. It's like, you didn't do anything. Especially now knowing that he was, it was originally going to be Kurt Russell. It's like, come on, man. Yeah. He's become a lot better of an actor more recently, I'll say. Ice Cube. He's found his thing to stick to, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, he's really good in the 21 and 22 Jump Street.
And he's great in Are We There Yet?
Yeah.
I had that on a UMD disc on my PSP.
Oh, you did? That's dope. For some reason, the only movie I had on UMD was 28 Days Later, which I never watched.
That's pretty good. Well, before we get to DC EU and all that stuff, I just wanted to bring up this article I saw on Reddit today because it's so funny. Avatar re-release has grossed more in China than Mulan.
Jesus Christ.
Oh, that's a good one.
That's sad.
I want to note that before we watched the Snyder Cut, because we were waiting for certain people to show up and like things to happen, somebody just threw Mulan on for some reason, and I've seen it before, but just looking at the opening of it again, one of the worst pieces of shit like out there. Like, holy fuck.
Yeah, no. Disney has really just been pumping out 0 out of 10s.
Yeah. No, Mulan is, like, not a movie. Like, don't look at that, man.
Like, I don't know, man. Just every single one of their live-action, like, reimaginings or reboots or remakes, whatever the hell you want to call them, they're all soulless. All soulless cash grabs. And it just makes me, like,
well, that one more than any of them, because they were just like, oh, we're smarter than China. If we make a movie in China, they're dumb people that we have no respect for. We'll watch it.
They'll go watch it. Of course they will.
Yeah. Yeah, no. And, they hated it, as they should. And also, it's not even just that it's a famous old Chinese story. They add weird elements to it, seemingly only to appeal to a Chinese audience, like just weird, like fantastical elements and stuff. Because in the original Mulan, she learns things from her fellow soldiers, and she teaches them things, and there's like arcs between them, and she kind of grows as a person. Well, in this one, she's a magical chosen one. Who never has to learn anything because she won by being
Mary
born.
Sue.
But this is embarrassing because so the subheadline, I don't even need to read the rest of this. This is from The Wrap, written by Jeremy Fuster, just for credit. But the subheader or whatever says James Cameron film has grossed $44 million in 10 days, topping the 41 million Chinese entire run of Mulan.
I didn't even know they were re-releasing Avatar.
Just in China.
Yeah, China has a bunch of like blockbusters will just reappear in theaters, which I wish would happen more here, really.
Which caused Avatar to pass Endgame. It repassed Endgame because of the Chinese release. Yeah.
Oh, good. Yeah, that Endgame sucks.
That it makes me so sad that like Jack's film made it the meme to like beat it and everything, but it's like it's hard to cheer when both of them are Disney in the first place.
And it's I was also about to say Avatar's not really a good movie either. So
no, but at least it's an auteur thing that James Cameron wanted to make, and not just another Russo brothers project.
Yeah, no, like I don't have any love for Avatar. I straight up don't like it because it's the same thing I've seen before, but worse in many ways. But at least it was a thing that the guy had been trying to make for like forever and really wanted to do.
He's still trying to make until the day he dies.
Now that he made it 5 movies, I think that he's trying to make. He's trying to make it a yes, a 5-movie series, because it was originally a trilogy, then he bumped it to 4, and I believe he's bumped it to 5, even though he still hasn't put out the second one.
That's awesome.
What a legend.
They have so many people working on that in New Zealand or wherever.
Yeah. They invented a new type of like underwater camera rig specifically because they didn't have something that would achieve the same goal to shoot the movie, which is insane.
That movie also showed Avatar 2. It showed that actors have no idea what's going on with movies. Like, one of the actors in it was like, oh, it's like 90% done, I think, like 2 years ago.
Cool.
They actors have no idea what's going on in the production of movies at all.
Well, that's something to look forward to in the next 50 years. Mm-hmm. But we should get to our main subject, which is the Snyder Cut. And before we get into that, really, I just kind of wanted to quickly, no need to say too much about anything. I'm sure they'll come up again and again. But just run through the other things in the DC extended universe.
Oh, yes.
Sure.
So first is Man of Steel.
I despise Man of Steel.
Me too.
Never seen it. Probably don't want to.
I think it's one of the ugliest movies ever made with like a real budget. It's all shaky cam. It's all like shitty zooms, frequently seemingly in post. Its color palette is disgusting. It has a terrible depiction of Superman that like doesn't make any sense even of itself, because his dad's just like an asshole for some reason, but it's not depicted like that. And I don't know. I've despised that movies for years. I distinctly remember turning to a friend of mine or whatever at high school, I guess that was when that came out in theaters. I turned to him and just said, I think that's one of the worst pieces of shit I've ever seen.
Yeah, all right. So moving on, Batman v Superman, kind of more of the same.
It's less ugly. There's more static shots. The color palette's less bad. It's because it's I don't know if it was who shot Man of Steel. It might have been the same guy. I might just be wrong. But Larry Fong did Batman v Superman. Who's a very good cinematographer. It's just that movie's a fucking mess, and the regular cut doesn't make any sense. But the director's cut makes it make sense, but it's still just like long and mostly disinteresting outside of a couple scenes.
And that was the first Snyder Cut.
Oh yes,
the universe.
Well, that's a traditional director's cut as opposed to
right, where it added a couple scenes instead of the runtime of an entirely new movie.
Yeah, Batman v Superman, I will say Lex Luthor is not a good portrayal of him, but his theme is amazing.
Oh, it's great. Some of the Chunky XL tracks in there are like crazy. And I like that fight scene where Batman fucks those people up in a warehouse. It's pretty cool.
And then the infamous Suicide Squad. It's terrible. I don't know if we need to dwell on that too long.
For some reason, I just can't build hate for it like I did with Man of Steel. It's poor in most ways, but for some reason, it just doesn't like hit me the same way.
I agree with that.
Yeah, no, me too. Like, it sucks and it's bad, but I kind of enjoyed myself, to be honest.
It's
so
just
it's like,
schlock.
whatever.
Yeah, it's just such schlock. It's whatever.
Yeah, it didn't make me go... I didn't, like, regret watching it. Very excited for the new one, though.
Oh, yes, the James Gunn.
The
Suicide
Squad, yes. Because that looks insane.
Yeah, it looks absolutely out of its mind. I'm excited.
So then, Wonder Woman.
Pretty good.
Pretty good.
Struggles towards the end. The big final conflict is pretty not good.
Yeah, that's just a nightmare of CGI garbage flying around, which is not great.
But the sequence where she like goes across the no man's land in World War One,
that's awesome.
Is the best this universe has been.
Yeah,
besides Aquaman.
Besides Aquaman.
Well, yeah. But I don't know. But yeah, the first Wonder Woman is just super endearing and super genuine, and it makes you feel things. Like, I actually really connected with her relationship with
Steve Trevor.
Yeah, it's just cute. It's nice. It's a good movie.
And the next is Aquaman, which we'll skip past because we already talked about it. It's the best. And awesome. Then it's Shazam.
A flat nothing, like 5 out of 10.
Shockingly overrated.
Overhyped. Like, it's not very funny at all.
A tonal mess.
Oh, yeah. People talked about it like it was like, oh, there's personality in this, and like it feels like an older superhero movie. It doesn't. It doesn't at all. It's like super digital. It doesn't look very good. It becomes a weird group, like, fan service thing at the end, like they all do.
Out of nowhere.
Where it's just, all of the people he ever met are all now Marvel family characters. They all have superpowers now. We just have a
Marvel?
big... Captain Marvel. The Marvel... What? His name's Captain Marvel.
You didn't know? Evan doesn't know anything. It's fine.
Okay.
I don't know comic books, man.
Yeah, okay.
I thought we were talking about DC.
You're better off like that.
Yeah. Shazam's real name is Captain Marvel, and other people are the Marvel family, and it just becomes that at the end, so it loses any of that like super focused lower budgetness.
I remember them being I remember them turning into the super family, but
yeah,
I guess I just okay.
Yeah, but that movie, it's just whiplash back and forth between being too dark and being just like non-consequential. Bleh. And David Sandberg, his movies, I don't like them. I don't like him as a director.
No, he just kind of makes stuff that makes me feel empty.
Well, he has one of the craziest origin stories for a director, which is that he just made a horror short film on YouTube that some producer saw and went, "Hey man, that's cool. Do you want to like work on this?" And then he made it into a feature, which is Lights Out. And then he went on from there. But it's crazy. That's not something that ever happens.
No, dream life that he is leading. Unfortunately, I just can't deal with his content.
Okay, so then next is Birds of Prey, which I think is perfectly fine.
Rock solid, functional entertainment.
Ewan McGregor's just hamming it up, which is always great.
That screenwriter is like only has like 2 movies, but they're like they form such a like, oh, you clearly wrote both of these, because they also wrote Bumblebee, and it has like the same structural messiness and like weird third act. They're like exactly the same screenplay.
Oh yeah, the third act of Birds of Prey is just a fucking like a what?
Yeah, no, they're messy in like the exact same way. It's like fascinating. You can tell that it's written by the same person at approximately the same time. And in Black Bumblebee, I like it. I think it's super fun. It's just not great. I liked some of the weird hyper-violence it occasionally had.
I was shocked at some of that violence.
I don't know. It's interesting because that movie's like the biggest financial failure in like the clump.
Well, yeah, because they for whatever reason felt it necessary to tack on Birds of Prey, even though A, that's not a draw for people to watch the movie, it's Harley Quinn, and B, they're barely in the movie.
Yeah, it does not do a good job selling them at all.
Why didn't you just call it a Harley Quinn movie?
Yeah, that was bad, and then they course corrected after the movie came out, which was stupid. But after that brings us to the last movie before the Snyder Cut, which is, of course, Wonder Woman 84.
Yeah.
It's kind of awful. It's kind of bad. It's not the worst, but it's bad.
It's cute sometimes. Why does she rape that guy?
Pedro Pascal is really enjoyable, and he's having a lot of fun, and he's like the best part of the movie, but past that, it's like nonsensical garbage.
And yeah, he's fun. He actually has some fun like sequences of just being doing weird stuff, and there's one campily entertaining like action thing at the beginning and like a really stupid kind of entertaining action thing in the middle, but there was just like no action.
Yeah, the opening scene where Wonder Woman subdues petty jewelry thieves at a mall is kind of fun, and it has a lot of the same tone as the first movie had, but then that's just lost completely.
Yeah.
It kind of is just like a weird love child of Superman 3 and Batman Forever.
Yes.
In terms of story and structure and everything, including tone.
It's just equal parts, those two movies.
Yeah.
Just straight up.
Yeah, it's fascinating that it's just those two movies.
It's boring.
Yeah.
Yes.
It drags so much in places.
It's like weird enough in places that like I wish I liked it more, but it's like not.
Oh,
good.
Me too. I'm in the same camp as I do wish it was better, but it's just not.
Yeah, it theoretically a well done movie that has like the the tone of a Richard Donner Superman. Like that's something I theoretically want, but then both Wonder Woman and Shazam, who are kind of going for like a throwback kind of feel, just kind of
don't
fall
achieve
flat
it.
on their face. Yeah.
I actually rewatched Richard Donner Superman like the other day, and which reminded me of two things. One, the TV I have in my bedroom is very bad. Two, it's just such a pleasant, good movie. Like it just tells a clean, good story, and like just a clean, good story, and it doesn't have a big punch up at the end, and it's like good without it. And the sequel has a big dumb punch up at the end, and it's good with it. So Richard Donner could do both.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we even went back to the beginnings of DC film, but now here we are at the zenith, the peak. This is what it's all been leading to. It is Zack Snyder's Justice League.
At a whopping 4 hours and 2 minutes long. The length of 2 movies.
Yeah. When I sat down, I had to be fully prepared with a lot of mind-altering substances, knowing that I was going to be strapped into my chair for 4 entire hours.
Yeah, we had a small event.
Yeah, we watched it in a small group setting, which I think was the ideal way to watch it because you can all just kind of, comment, laugh, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, having like pizza and alcohol and stuff and just chilling and group absorbing this thing as like a weird, like almost like a sports event is the optimal way to do it.
This is my Super Bowl.
Yeah. It is and it isn't,
It isn't. Because I can't say I was like, I wasn't like, holy shit, I gotta watch this. This is amazing. This is like, I was just fascinated by the fact that it exists at all.
Yeah.
So I wanted to see what it was gonna be.
Well, that's what led everyone to watching this, because the Snyder Cut was a big point of discussion for forever since the Whedon version came out. And
2017.
Those fans just wouldn't let up, and everyone just became bitter and hateful toward the existence of the Snyder Cut. So it hit a point where it's like nobody wants this really, but then it got announced, and I've noticed that since then attitudes have flipped completely around, which has been just awful. The audience response to this has just made me I despise it, and we should get to that later after we actually talk about it. But everyone all of a sudden was very interested in this, and it was released on HBO Max just very recently as we're recording this.
March 21st, 2021.
But somehow everyone has found 4 hours out of their week to watch this thing.
Yeah, it's definitely a marathon of an event.
Baseline, like not thinking about the Snyder Cut, going into this, what was your impression on the Whedon version?
It's really bad.
Yeah.
Like I personally hate it. I dislike it more than Suicide Squad. It's really bad.
It's like plastic visuals that come from the fact that it was shot to look like a Zack Snyder movie, and then they just like turn the saturation all the way up and like fucked with the lighting like in post. It looks disgusting. It looks absolutely fucking disgusting. And the Whedon reshoots that look like television. You can tell pretty much every scene that he worked on because it looks like TV. And it's fucking cringe, man. Like
that is his aesthetic.
Yeah, the thing about that movie is when I saw it in theaters, I thought it was bad for sure. But it was when I just kind of like it came on like HBO or something like a year later, and my dad hadn't seen it or whatever, and we just kind of looked at it, where I was like, oh man, does any of this work? Like any of it? And like I think the only scene that does in the whole movie is when Flash runs at Superman, and everything slows down, and then Superman's eyes look at him. Like that was like the only thing in like the whole movie that I was like, oh yeah, this works. This is like a scene.
Yeah, it's just a nonsensical mess.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, you never really understand what's going on. It's a collect-a-thon thing for the bad guy to go get the big bad items, but he gets them off screen mostly. It's a fucking disaster.
Okay. Well, to go against the grain, I didn't hate it. I don't hate that movie. I dislike it less than Man of Steel and Batman v Superman, because in a weird way, I've just become completely desensitized to the Whedon Marvel way of doing things. So when I watched it, I just was able to my brain went completely off, and I didn't want to injure anyone after I watched it. I've only watched it once. I never returned to it. I said, that's whatever, man. You can understand my perspective going into this now, because I do not like Zack Snyder's movies, period, point blank, like any of them.
Yeah, no, I don't have that, like, while Man of Steel is, like, one of my least favorite blockbusters of all time, probably, and I legitimately like Dawn of the Dead. I legitimately like 300 okay. I like Watchmen pretty good.
Okay, Watchmen I'm fine with Watchmen.
Watchmen's overly literal, and like it has significant weird problems, but it's like the most real movie he's ever made, especially with his current aesthetic. Because Dawn of the Dead doesn't have his current aesthetic; it's just a movie. Watchmen and on is where it's like, I guess it's 300 and on is where it's like hyper digital. Weird color palette. Like I put a lot of music over everything. That's where it like popped up, and then it's just been that since. Dawn of the Dead doesn't, like, you can tell it's a Zack Snyder movie, but it's not on the same wavelength exactly.
Yeah,
Just looking at a list of his movies right now, I'm having the realization that I've only ever seen Justice League from 2017 and this. So that's an interesting perspective, I guess.
Yeah. But Batman v Superman sucks. It's a little bit, it's better than Man of Steel. I'll give it that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've just always, you guys and other people have just told me that those two movies suck, so I've never had an inclination to watch them. I do want to see Watchmen, and 300's probably just a thing I should look at some point.
It's for historical perspective, yeah.
Yeah. Well, also, in the different definition of historical perspective, it's abysmal, but it could not be less of a real thing than it is. But
yeah,
it's a weird shot-for-shot adaptation of a comic book.
Okay, so I don't think this is dragging our feet any further. I don't know. How do we approach talking about this, I guess?
Okay, see, this is the thing, and I personally have had this feeling about it since I watched it, where I don't think this falls into traditional definitions of good or bad, or anything like that. It is an insane, fucking weird VOD passion project, strange fucking thing. The closest thing ever to this is the Richard Donner cut of Superman 2. And they just grabbed the old footage and they tweaked it a little bit and they threw it in there. That movie is visibly incomplete. It's just back then movies weren't filmed on green screens, so most of the stuff's in the shot. There's never been a director's cut where they had threw $70 million down to get it out there.
Is it really a director's cut?
Well, yeah.
No, it's not really.
No, it's not.
It's just a different movie that's 2 hours longer. And it's there's just nothing that's ever been like this. And that's why I'm so fascinated by it.
Well, and it had additional photography, which makes it not a director's cut.
Yeah, I would say that's the distinction of it not being a director's cut. But yeah, it's just such an anomaly. And it was willed into existence by weirdos on the internet. I would kind of agree with the fact that it's even hard to say it's it's a regular movie. I don't know what the fuck it is.
The first thing you see when you open it on HBO Max is a little card that says, to preserve Zack Snyder's vision, this film has been presented in 4:3.
For all the dummies who don't know what an aspect ratio is and thought there was something wrong with their TV. Yeah. Hilarious.
Yeah. No, Snyder decided to keep the movie open matte. It was originally cropped way wider by Joss Whedon and co. But he decided just to keep it full open matte. He put a tweet out when this was super early in development, that when he was asked about what aspect ratio would be, he said he was going to put it in 166, which is Euro wide, which is the Vivitch.
Oh, yeah.
Which would be slight cropping.
That, please.
Yeah, I know.
Bad meme.
That's cringe.
No, it is. But the Witch, stuff like that. Super 16 movies are all natively in that aspect ratio. And he was gonna do slight cropping to make it that, but I guess he decided not to at some point.
Why open matte? It's shot digital. I don't understand. Why is this being?
No, this was shot on 35 millimeter, my dude.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, double punched or whatever. So it's it's got a taller image, and so it's natively in 4:3, and he completely did not crop it, even slightly, seemingly.
Well, what do you think of the 4:3 presentation? Because I have my thoughts on it.
It's a choice. It's a choice that not many people would make, and I have to kind of respect that. And I also I don't know. I'll say whether or not you like it or you think it looks good, I think it's good that the guy who shot this movie, I don't know his name, I forget, but he was very, very sad when he saw the first cut of the movie, because it's just completely fucked and not how he shot the movie, because he shot it for 4:3. And as someone who can relate to that, can relate
we can.
that,
Yeah.
I sympathize with him, and I'm glad he got to see the version of the movie that he shot it for.
Yes.
So that's what I'll say.
Yeah, I will give it. It's like such a unique thing to see a movie of this budget in 4:3. It definitely gives it like a weird aesthetic. I was kind of shocked, even though I knew it was a 4:3, it was just kind of shocking to look at. Nothing is made like this.
No.
Zack Snyder compared it to First Cow recently.
Okay.
Okay.
He said that they're thematically similar, and
Okay.
yeah, I don't know. It was a weird interview, but he was talking about it, and he compared it to First Cow as part of it. He also said that correctly for the most part that comic book images are normally taller, like paneling is normally tall aspect ratio. You don't normally get as much widescreen paneling. You do more in recent time, but in general you don't, especially in older stuff. So he thinks of them in being like, he thinks of superheroes as being presented in that kind of visual, and that's kind of why he decided to do it, apparently.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's good. The 4:3, and you're right, it's all weird and stuff, but I don't think that's necessarily a positive. I think it stands out like a Thor thumb in a way that isn't like, oh, this was a choice made for the movie. It just feels fucking pretentious to me.
Yeah.
And
well, you also wanted it to be an IMAX where it would barely have any side stuff. But then it's on HBO Max, so your TV is half black.
yeah, I mean, some of it's just like the way some of it's shot. It's like it doesn't aesthetically match. Like some shots are really weird, and they're framed like the Gretel and Hansel, where it's the person's right in the middle of the frame, and there's like half of the shot is headroom.
Oh, there's a bunch of that.
It's like that doesn't. What does that mean? It doesn't. That can work for an art film and something, and a 4:3 aspect ratio plays to some very specific things. But when I think superhero movie with grand scale, that is, I think anamorphic, which it doesn't have to be anamorphic. It could be something wider,
like,
but
it could be 185-1 or something.
Yeah, it's just so weird. It's like, when I see that, I'm thinking I'm watching an old movie. I'm watching a comedy. I'm watching like a small independent feature, and there's other reasons, but it's just, I don't think it plays thematically very well in this movie.
I will say I don't think it adds that much.
No.
But for me, it doesn't detract a whole lot. Like, I because at least, like, I mean, I mentioned before, but it's like it's shot for that. So the compositions make more sense now that I've seen it like this, as opposed to the previous cut. But yeah, I don't know. Like, it doesn't add a whole lot.
Yeah, I do kind of wonder what it would have been like if he did do the Euro-wide thing.
I would have been okay with that more.
Yeah, because that was like what he originally said he was going to do with it. Because it was shot like to work with open matte and all that stuff. It's just it seems like at some point he thought he was going to do some cropping to the images and just decided not to. I think the images work a lot better than they do in the original film, and I guess I can I don't know. I don't have a negative opinion about it. I also don't have a particularly strong positive about it. I kind of just respect that he did something weird with it, but like it doesn't. I don't know. It does look weird on a fucking television, as some people have shown. It actually fills the screen of the current iPad model. So which makes that, I guess, the primary way to view it.
Motherfuckers are watching the Snyder Cut on their iPads.
Dude,
heroes.
Yeah, watching on their iPod Nanos. Oh.
As was intended. Speaking of intent, so pretty much all the talk, it just all comes down to everyone is, regardless of if they have anything like definable and concrete to say about the movie as a positive, it's just, well, Zack Snyder got to have his creative vision, and that's all well and good, but does that matter when I fucking hate his artistic vision? I hate all of his hang-ups and all of his tendencies. I hate those, and it's just, this movie is just giving him carte blanche to not only return all of the stuff that was in it originally, but add even more of those.
Yeah, like, it's whether you like his style or not. Personally, I think, as you've made us aware, I don't love it either. It's weird, I'll say that. You know, and I know you said it was sort of the thing everyone's talking about, but for me, it's nice to see that he was able to do that.
I don't know. It's not to me whether people like it or not, because if you like it, you like it. I understand that Snyder has this big fan base, but what has been so frustrating to me throughout this whole process is just everyone suddenly flipping and becoming everyone is becoming a Snyder head, and it's just like, do we all just forget how obnoxious those people were being for years?
Well, yeah, and the history's written by the victors, and they won.
Yeah, but does everyone immediately become the victors? I don't know. This is just so. Everything is just turned. All these people are just constantly talking about it like it's automatically some sort of like creative genius just because he had the ability to control it, which is not how that works.
I want to be as clear about this as I can. I did not like Zack Snyder's DC universe. Of the people here, I'm like a huge fucking comic dork loser. And I have like a big affection for DC Comics and these characters. I watch all the animated content. I read tons of comics. I watch the shitty DVD movies that are occasionally good, but have become less over time. I did do all that stuff. I'm very into this kind of shit. Man of Steel is the dirt fucking worst. I hate it with every fiber of my fucking being. And Batman v Superman I don't have a deep hatred for, but it does not fucking work. I still hate that version of Superman. It's fucking rough. It just doesn't offend my aesthetic sensibilities as much. But, so like, I was happy as fuck that Zack Snyder wasn't going to fucking work on these anymore. I want DC Universe to have good movies. So, like, I'm not going to retroactively pretend I've been on the guy's team, though I did always like the movies I said I like of his. I also fucking despise the other ones. And that's how I've always felt about the dude. It's like, he makes I kind of like what Zack Snyder is selling to me, because I kind of like his weird aesthetic shit, his weird fucking visual style and stuff. I kind of connect with it on a certain level. It's just, I think most of his movies are like poorly written dreck, especially more recent ones. But the thing that interested me about this is that it's not so much Zack Snyder gets to do his vision or whatever. It's not so much that. It's mostly just that the superhero genre used to be made by guys like Richard Donner and Tim Burton and Sam Raimi, and like they got these weird fucking guys with visions and made horror movies and like all this shit to make these movies, and they're all those movies are really fucking good. And now it's so like commodified and like generic, and they get guys who made 70% of Rotten Tomatoes indie movie, and then they fucking get them to make heavily overproduced content. I was been interested in this for a while because of the fact that this is a dude playing with these things, and he's going to get to do whatever he wants with them. And it's actually interesting to see weird choices made with these characters that like would not be made otherwise, even though I dislike several of those choices. And it's just kind of interesting. Like, the superhero genre has been so uninteresting for a while, and I think that's why people have surrounded this so much. Good or bad, it's like, at least it's a love it or hate it or whatever. And it's not just like Captain Marvel or some shit.
Yeah, at least it has choices from a director that wasn't being, manipulated by a studio completely.
Yeah, the guy, the guy won, at least in this field. He made it. He got to do the thing he wanted to fucking do. He got to do the stuff with the characters.
He got his thing.
And I honestly don't want him to get this stuff again, even though I did enjoy the movie well enough. I
think he's done. It seems like he doesn't want to do this anymore. I think he's done, which is understandable.
He just wants to make that weird zombie movie and move on, and that's correct.
Yeah,
and
I don't know. I think the real winner here is Warner Brothers, because they got to just throw out an extra $40 million. I mean, the real loss for them was the Whedon cut, because that was basically them making the movie twice. And then everyone
it cost like
$300
million or some shit because it was reshot super heavily.
But now they get to just throw an extra $40 million, which is the budget of just like, it's just pretty modest for a Warner Brothers production, and then they get a whole new movie out of it, and they don't even have to try with the effects that they added.
Oh yeah,
because it looks fucking bad.
The effects are pretty bad.
Certain things have been improved. The effects in general look better than the original film. However, all the effects for stuff that was added to this that's new, like not stuff shot years ago, but the new stuff, awful. The worst looking shit possible.
Right.
You can just immediately tell, too. It's like...
Warning, spoiler for Zack Snyder's Justice League / The Snyder Cut / Justice League 2021 / Zack Snyder's Justice League Justice is Grey.
The one that, like, I was just mouth agape looking at was, Cyborg. His intro, he has a power where he can see people's bank accounts and give them more money or whatever.
The world's monetary systems and its complex interactions will seem as easy to manipulate for you as a child's plaything.
But he's in this like mind palace kind of deal on just like an empty planet, and he's outside of this bank, and he sees like the feuding of Wall Street and like money in America as
the bear
represented
and the bull.
by bear and a bull, and it is just unbelievably bad. It started with me when he was just like on an empty planet being like, this looks like a commercial. This looks like a 5-gum ad from 15 years ago. And then that happened, and it's just astonishingly bad.
Oh yeah,
how poor the effects are.
Oh yeah, no. Stuff that was like already in there has been like improved in certain ways. Like there's just some wildly ugly fucking shots.
Because everyone talks about how Steppenwolf looks a lot better.
No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. It's the same thing.
I think he looks better in terms of fitting. He looks more like he's existing in the space.
He has more of a like, I don't know. His design is more of a thing than what he was before. Like, I don't know.
He doesn't look great at all, but he looks more like he belongs in the shots sometimes.
He still doesn't look good. I'm not trying to say he looks good.
Both versions are bad. I think that is possible.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think he had a character in this movie, which was good.
I did really like that Steppenwolf's character in this movie is that he's middle management. He's
just a bitch boy who gets sent around to do the bitch work.
Yeah,
and he's just trying to impress Darkseid.
But do you think that it fixes the collectathon thing? Because I know you said that earlier, like the Whedon cuts like that, but it's the same thing, really.
Well, it's still a collectathon thing.
Getting all the
it's just they actually put weight on him getting each of them, and he doesn't get them off screen.
Yes. Yeah,
or in the dumbest way possible. Like when he picks up the last one off after it landed on a car.
Oh yeah, but that one's off screen.
Yeah, you don't even
see him fly away with it, but you presume he stole it from that parking lot because that's where the beam's from. But he took it off screen.
Yeah, I don't know.
I found not good.
I found the pacing of that stuff specifically, and that's why I'm bringing it up. It's just each scene where that kept happening just felt like the same scene, and it should have been. I think it's while it's good that there was more emphasis on it, that you can understand it to a degree more, I think there's just still too much. And I think that's ultimately my biggest issue with this cut, is that it's not edited well just because of the sake that it doesn't have to be.
Yeah. One of the things that stood out to me is very related to that, which is, in the original film, this character doesn't even exist. Desaad, the right-hand man of Darkseid, is in this to some weird degree. And every time, the thing that made those scenes feel the same to me was not him getting them, though it kind of was samey. It's the fact that after he gets them, he always just checks back in with Desaad to be like, hey, I got this fucking box. You impressed yet?
I have found one of the three. The one that woke and called to me. 2 boxes found and awake.
And Desaad's like, no.
No.
You still owe the Great One 50,000 more worlds. Find the third.
And, well, I think it's fine if there's one of those, but he does it every time, and it just... It made it feel like clearing stuff out in a video game.
That is what the pacing reminded me of all around in this movie, was a video game.
Yeah.
It's a lot of expository dialogue that hasn't changed.
Oh, no.
It's a bunch of people talking, and it's awfully boring. And then there's a big build up to each fight scene, and then there's a brief moment. It feels like super high res, like pre-rendered cutscenes for the build up to those things. The dialogue scenes are just like the in-game cutscenes. Mm-hmm. It all is very video gamey.
Oh, yeah. No, it's very structured.
I think the bottom line is that, like, this could have been 3 hours, or even...
Yes.
I don't know. It didn't need to be as long as it was to still add things that make the story make sense. Because it did. And that's what I was, a positive, I guess, is that it makes sense at all.
The story actually is coherent.
Yeah, unlike the first movie that we're just like, what is even happening?
I feel like a lot of the stuff that does correct the issues with the first one isn't additional stuff, it's rearranged stuff.
Well, or recontextualized stuff.
Yes, exactly. It's the good parts of this in the like mending what is broken sense that everyone's I think is primarily looking for here, could have been accomplished with rearranging it primarily, and then maybe like an additional like 15-20 minutes to get the cyborg stuff in.
Yeah, that was important. He's a character.
Yeah, he's
his relationship with his father is like has a bearing on the story, and they have a pretty good moments actually.
Now, let me speak to you from my heart, not as a scientist, as a father. Your father twice over.
Cyborg's dad dying, it's pretty good. He actually has like a reason for it. It's like explained well. It's clear.
Yeah.
They have an understandable dynamic.
Because throughout the whole thing, they have a troubled relationship, and he's never there for him. But then, I guess what is he, a scientist who has been working on the third mother cube as like I don't know, trying to like tap into it, see what its potential is.
Evan, it's the mother box. say the
Mother box.
What did I say it was?
Mother cube. You have to have it has to be synonymous with pussy, and that's how you know you said it right.
Yes.
The mother box.
The mother boxes.
Mother box.
Wait. Mother boxes?
Okay. But yeah, anyway, he in that scene I mentioned before where after they revive Superman, the thing is just thrown from the lab that they're doing it at, and it lands on a car. And in the Whedon cut, it's just it cuts to Steppenwolf flying away with it, and then they're looking at him like, oh shit. And it's like he just picked it up off of the car, and it's like, what the fuck? That's so dumb.
Yep.
But in this one, the same thing happens, except he gets there and he sees the indent on the car where it was sitting, but it's not there, and he's like, oh. And then it's revealed that Cyborg's dad actually snatched it, and he brings it to his facility, and he's gonna shoot a deatomizing laser at it to try and destroy it. And he locks himself in the room, and he turns on the laser, and Cyborg and Steppenwolf were both trying to fucking get to him. and then he turns it on, and then you just see him fucking evaporate into nothing. And it's like, oh god, like that's rough.
Yeah.
And he sacrifices himself for that. And Steppenwolf gets it right after, so then you're like, oh, that was just for nothing. But then it's revealed that he wasn't trying to destroy it. He was actually trying to leave a nuclear like imprint on it so that they could track it later.
He wasn't trying to destroy the box. He was trying to superheat it. You know, he made the core the hottest thing on Earth outside of a nuclear reactor.
Nuclear. It's pronounced nuclear.
Yeah. No, yeah, he was just tagging it so they could, have a second chance at the end.
Right.
Okay.
And that's a thing, man. That's something.
Yeah, it gives like a complete story arc for the characters. Like that's like the big difference, and like the thing that I really enjoyed about this for the most part is that everybody of any significance besides Aquaman gets like a arc where they like
yeah, everyone has a little arc and a little thing they do, and it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah. This, even though he's still not good, this drastically improved my opinion of the Ezra Miller Flash stuff. Not that I still don't like him in the role, still don't really like him in the role, but
I'm astounded that all of the awful dialogue he has.
My special skills include Viola, web design, fluent in sign language, gorilla sign language.
Well, I am just a black hole of snacks. I am a snack hole.
Remind me, are flamethrowers not a thing?
Was originally going to be in the Snyder version, and that wasn't reshoots, which was the only thing that I thought I definitively was like, oh yeah, that's a Whedon edition.
There are two Flash-based dialogue additions from Whedon that are not in this. There is, he no longer talks about brunch.
Like brunch. Like, what is brunch? You wait in line for an hour for essentially lunch.
And 2, he no longer talks about the movie Pet Sematary.
Right, but we mean bring him back in like a yay, he's back way, not in like a Pet Cemetery scenario.
And he also doesn't comedic, like...
He doesn't fall on Wonder Woman's boobs like an anime character. Yeah. A scene that was so bad that Gal Gadot refused to shoot it and they had to use a double. Because she was unwilling.
That's fair, because that's like awful. I would refuse to shoot that.
Pretty funny.
Yeah. Those are the Flash elements that are not in this. Most of his terrible humor is still there. Those are some of the most notable garbage parts, so I'm glad they're gone. But he still does a lot of awful cringe. But his character is way more understandable in this, because in the original movie, all they do with Flash is that Dad in jail, and then I'm afraid to do anything, and I suck. Please help me, Daddy Bruce. And then Daddy Bruce helps him. That's his entire thing in the original film, is that he's too afraid and too shitty to accomplish anything, and Bruce Wayne has to baby him into saving, like, 2 people. That's his arc. This film, he has, like, an actual, like, weird thing about, like... He has like a weird father thing that is tied into Cyborg's weird father thing, and they have like a little dynamic, and he kind of grows to believe in himself more, and he also gets weird time travel power elements that are introduced in a scene. Like, I had no idea that would be in this movie. There is nothing in the original cut that would evoke that Flash can time travel, because in the original cut, when they were going to bring Superman back to life, they're like, you gotta time this perfectly, Flash. If you're off by a millisecond of a millisecond, everything goes wrong. None of that dialogue is in this. They just figure he can do it.
Well, yeah, and he's about to miss it, but then he goes back in time real quickly so he can hit it correctly.
Yeah, he rolls it back like a fraction of a second. And
right.
Yeah.
And then he uses that at the end, because they're all fucked at the end.
Yeah, Steppenwolf is like, they're dead. He's gonna kill them, and then Flash goes back in time to save everyone, which honestly is kind of cool. That scene was pretty cool.
Yeah,
I like that scene. I didn't like I think having a scene to introduce Flash is good, but the Snyder comedy of there being hot dogs everywhere, which plays into his bad comedy, 1, and 2, his obsession with phallic and yonic imagery, and everything has to be a dick and a pussy.
Yeah.
But that theoretically could have been good, I guess.
Yeah. No, he has cute moments in this that make him feel like a person and not just a Joss Whedon irony character. And that improved him a lot for me, even though, yeah, he still says some of the worst cringe I've, ever heard.
The characters get additional stuff, but also the other thing that pads out this runtime is just pre-existing scenes, just getting a bunch of fucking air added in every single shot possible being used when there's no reason. That's the stuff where, a director's cut can... That's often where the problem is that there's just too much air. And that's just something that is a hang-up of the person that directed it. But especially in the first hour and a half, I'd say, just every scene was extended to a degree that was, it was like, when is this gonna end?
Oh, yeah. No, I agree. There's a lot of air in certain parts. So some of the stuff is fleshed out in a way, a lot of the stuff is fleshed out in a way that I think adds, or he makes it, I like that the bad guys that Wonder Woman fights have, a mild story that she gets in 10 seconds. It's not that much extra. She just lassos a guy and he goes, actually, we're fucking Luddite evil weirdos. And she's like, oh, and murders them. But
that scene was also crazy.
The stuff with giving all the air to everything, and that's a good scene. That's the scene that really made me think about this, is the weight given to that scene, which is just there to introduce one of many characters, is on the level of the opening of The Dark Knight. Because you see this villain that doesn't have anything to do with anything. You see their whole trip into the thing and their whole plan being executed, which is so unnecessary and indulgent.
Well, yeah, I guess that is a good one to talk about because I like that she lassos them and then he says the thing and then it uses her power that she doesn't use. It conveys what Wonder Woman does. But yeah, there is just a bunch of extra footage of them just dealing with the police and stuff that you can cut outside to show that there's cops, but they keep cutting back to it, and it is kind of it's straight up unnecessary.
It's excessive because I can agree with you. The just quick throwaway lines that can tell you a lot about a character. That's good. That's a nice addition. I don't mind that. I can't get mad at it. But the build up and it's every single scene with Snyder. It feels like every single thing that happens is the most important thing that's ever happened. And so when actual important things happen, it doesn't feel as strong.
Yeah.
I just thought it was kind of awesome when Wonder Woman threw those guys like rag dolls into the wall and they exploded in pools of blood.
I did. Okay, one of my favorite elements of this movie is the maximalism with the superpowers, where they just evaporate people when they interact with them.
Yeah.
It's so nuts to look at when Wonder Woman just kicks the guy and he flies 40 feet and squishes on the wall.
Yeah. And then she goes and kneels down and talks to a child, you can be a hero too.
Yeah, and she's like, you're awesome.
These children that just got into this traumatic incident, but they're all smiling.
Yeah.
Except for one, and they're all looking at the one that's upset looking, like she's the weird one.
Yeah, they're all.
But then it just ends up being like,
what are you talking about? That was fucking awesome. We just watched Wonder Woman murder 20 people. And then she goes, remember, kids, it's okay to murder people as long as they did something bad.
As long as they're Palestinian.
And then she flew away. Also, minor thing that barely relates to the movie. I do think it's funny that Wonder Woman 1984 gave her an extra superpower that's not in this.
Oh, that she flies?
Yeah.
That's the weird thing about watching this, is that there's stuff that was established in movies that came out after.
Well, that's just a product of the DC.
I know, it's just weird.
Just overall being awful.
Yeah.
You're right. Yeah, it's strange.
Yeah, a lot of the reason that this movie exists is because DC could not be any worse at planning and executing.
Yeah,
because say what you will about the Marvel movies, I don't particularly like a lot of them. However, they did they did bide their time and they did correctly plan out and pace everything more or less. At least a lot better than DC's done.
At least the overview stuff like Thanos and all that shit.
Yeah, because it's like you gotta have a solo movie before a character comes into a big team up movie, or else it's like what, like, because then you have to try to tell their origin story in that movie, which this movie has the problem of because it had two characters that it was trying to do that for.
Cyborg gets a full origin story and Flash gets half of one, and that takes a lot of time.
Three because of the time of the 2017 film, Aquaman hadn't come out either.
Yeah, but he doesn't get up back. Like I think with that one, they just were like, okay, that's coming out soon, whatever. Like,
I don't know. I feel like the way Aquaman is treated in this movie feels like almost a level of disdain from Snyder. It just undercuts it all around. I don't know. I am happy that he still gets to say "man" in this, and it's not that self-serious, but it does piss me off that Cyborg can't say "booyah," his catchphrase.
Okay, I'm sorry that I'm going to do this, but...
I know what you're going to do.
Evan thought Aquaman's catchphrase was cowabunga.
No, he's not Michelangelo.
I did not think his catchphrase was that. I just thought he said that within the Whedon cut.
No, but we realized that
I know its origin.
We realized he was thinking about booyah, and it just moved everything around. But it's just
because I knew one of them said a word along those lines, but I just
love the idea.
And also, I don't know comic books.
Oh no, but it's fine because I love the idea of Aquaman saying cowabunga whenever he does things. That would have drastically improved the Whedon cut.
Yeah, we need the cowabunga
cut coming soon.
We also need the society cut.
Yeah, he doesn't say it.
Okay, let's get to that. Let's talk about the Joker in this. Because the whole entire movie, I watched this with my friend. The whole movie, every 15 minutes or so, we'd go, when the hell is the nightmare sequence? Nightmare with a K, which is Snyder's terrible addition to these movies. The worst part of Batman v Superman, but that is his creation, and damned if that's not going to be in anything he makes from now on if it's in DC. But every 15 minutes, where's the Joker? And then it came to the point where we realized, it's just not going to be in the movie proper.
Oh, you didn't think it was going to be the very end scene? That's what I thought going in.
No, because the nightmare scene in Batman v Superman's just in the middle of the movie.
It's just a random, he just has the nightmare in the middle.
I don't know. I kind of figured that. I thought that read as it was going to be a after credit scene or something.
But no, this movie has 2 post-credit scenes that play before the credits roll.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's interesting. Yeah. Okay. Here's the thing. I have a friend who's really into Batman and the Joker and all that shit. And pretty much every person who has ever played the Joker has done a good job. Like Cesar Romero in the 66 show is good. He's fun. It's super entertaining. Jack Nicholson doesn't give a fuck, but it still comes off well.
It's raw. He's great. It's awesome.
Yeah, I love that version of him. Mark Hamill, best ever. Could not be better.
Yes.
Fucking, Heath Ledger's great. Most of the even other animated dub versions who aren't Mark Hamill do at least a pretty good job. It's a weird character, and it's funny because if you ever look at fan films, it's always the worst part of them. It's always cringe.
A bit twisted, maybe? A bit off. A colorful character whose intentions may be a little bit off and strange and perhaps not line up with what society might want him.
Maybe. But yeah, the point is, there's been 50 versions of him. They bottom out at okay. Then in 2016, Jared Leto plays the Joker. And the thing is, he's awful in it. He's fucking putrid.
Are you sweet talking me?
But I always wanted to give him a slight benefit of the doubt that maybe he wasn't as bad as I thought. Because, it's a well-known story with that movie that his scenes got cut. He was supposed to have a deeper, arc in the movie. So maybe they picked weird takes. Maybe they cut out the good parts and they just made him look like shit. That happens. That actually happens.
Yes.
But
how'd that turn out for you this time around?
And then he's in this movie for about 1 minute, like literally a minute or two. And he is the fucking fucking worst.
You don't want to kill me. I'm your best friend. Besides, who's gonna give you a reach around?
He is trying to evoke every Joker performance ever. At the same time.
Poor Lois. How she suffered so.
It is such unbelievable cringe.
Au contraire, my little fish stick.
Like, I couldn't, look at him when he was on screen.
So as usual, I'll be the bigger man. A truce, Bruce.
I was losing my shit.
Well, that's what makes all of the other performances distinct and memorable, is that those actors took the role and ran with it.
Did their own thing with it. Yeah.
But Jared Leto is just literally smashing up primarily Hamill and Ledger.
Yeah, just Hamill and Ledger mostly.
But a lot of Ledger.
Yeah. He does 70% Ledger, 20% Hamill, 10% everybody else, and it's cringe.
It was embarrassing to say the least.
Now, how many dead eyes can you look into before you die inside yourself?
I've been dead inside a long time.
And I guess while we're talking about this, I will say, while I generally was entertained by most of the movie up until this point, every single thing past the point where it says epilogue is 0 out of 10 garbage.
I can deal with the part where Deathstroke shows up and he just goes, I don't like Batman, and then Lex Luthor goes,
that part was
Batman.
fine,
It's
whatever.
It's
other than that, everything past the epilogue was the worst.
Yeah, that scene was the post-credits for the Whedon cut.
Yeah, though it's altered in this one, because in the original...
Yeah, it is altered.
He goes, hey, bro, want to set up a Legion of Doom? Want to do an Injustice League?
Yeah, he says Injustice League just to the camera, pretty much.
Yeah, and this one, he goes, do you want to know who Batman is? And he goes, yeah. And he goes, it's Bruce Wayne. And he goes, awesome, I'm going to go fucking ruin that guy. And it's fine. It's whatever. It's set up for...
Yeah.
It's apparently set up for what the early scripting for the Ben Affleck directed Batman movie was.
Oh, that was the picture.
Yep, yeah.
How many different things has DC gone through just since the release of the 2017 cut of Justice League?
It's unbelievable. It's a crazy amount of shit.
Now we have Pattinson Batman is the next thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Affleck Batman's gone.
Matt Reeves, yeah.
No, it's astonishing, how much shit. I guess they were apparently gonna do basically the Bane story where he ruins Batman's life, but with Deathstroke. Probably would have been fine. Very dead.
Sure.
Project is unbelievably dead.
Well, the way that Deathstroke is introduced here, because that scene definitely feels like the post-credit scene just from what we've been told with Marvel movies and everything, or it's establishing the next movie. That plays before the credits roll first. Mm-hmm. The scene before it ends, and that scene plays. And then that ends, and then the nightmare sequence plays. And the one on the boat with Deathstroke only plays before the nightmare one because Deathstroke is in the nightmare sequence, but his alternate reality version of himself that works with the Justice League. It's just so messy.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. No, it none of that stuff makes sense. Most of it's weird references to things that, don't mean anything if you don't aren't into that stuff, and a lot of it's just nonsense that doesn't make sense even if you do care about that stuff. Everything after the word epilogue is either that scene, which is whatever, and then everything else is what, why are you doing this?
Was there anything else in the epilogue besides those two scenes?
They bring Martian Manhunter back around too.
Oh, yes. That is the other edition to talk about.
I'm sorry. Who are you again? I've gone by many names.
Martian Manhunter is very awkwardly put into this movie, and he looks so fucking bad.
He looks so bad. Unbelievably bad.
He looks awful.
I kind of... Okay, see... I kind of popped for Martian Manhunter existing because
yes,
I'm
of course.
a big fan of him. He's real cool. However, that's like the funniest context change in the whole fucking movie. And this one's not just like the original, version being different. This is like weird added content, at least I believe. And it's fucking because they include the conversation where Martha Kent talks to Lois Lane about how they both loved Clark and whatever. But then she walks outside and becomes Martian Manhunter because he was pretending to be her for this weird conversation. And
That's pretty funny.
It's super strange. And then he instantly changes into the military colonel guy who's in the other Snyder movies. It's just such a forced in moment, and it was pretty funny.
It's interesting because every scene with Martha Kent in it has this consistent just shittiness to it in these movies.
Yep. I don't know why he hates Superman's parents so much. I don't know what's with that element. Okay, one of the cool things about Superman and why he's one of my favorite comic book characters, despite people generally frequently crap on him for being lame or whatever, he's just like a dude, and his parents are alive. And they didn't, they're just good people. And he just kind of grew up like a guy. But he, occasionally was like, wow, I could beat up the whole football team. Instead, they shoved me in a locker and call me a loser or whatever. And it's like, that sucks. That stuff's all perfectly good. But then Snyder reimagines his loving parents as, insane people who just want him to be miserable and not help anyone under any circumstances, and it's so weird. In this movie, they tie it in a weird way. Where first, when Superman comes back to life, he has the voices of both his dads in his head, and with his Earth Dad being like, you gotta help yourself and help the family. Everybody else can die. Leave children to die. and his Space Dad's like, you're gonna change the world, Kal-El. And it's supposed to be like he's gonna try to do both or something. And he's got the black suit on that he has after he dies in the Death of Superman story. And it's like, okay, sure, I guess. But I don't think turning Pa Kent into a weird asshole was worth that.
Yeah, it's interesting that you bring up the Superman stuff, because one of the things I did like about this is that Zack Snyder showed that he can portray Superman with some level of optimism.
Because the thing is, when the black suit came out, I was worried. Because it was like, oh, he picked out... And while it's a thing that he wears after he dies and comes back, it's the comic book thing, I was like, oh, he picked this because he wants him to wear this forever and be edgy Superman. But he actually isn't like that after he comes back. He seems pretty good and hopeful.
He's more Superman than he ever was in the other two movies.
Yeah.
After he comes back, which is nice. Unmotivated, but nice.
Oh, yeah, it's very unmotivated. I mean, I guess he came back from the dead, but there's not a arc reason for him to just not be a weird anymore. But I like that he's Superman now. And he's Superman now in a likable... It's in an earnest way that I actually kind of like. The Whedon goes a little hard and going oh my god, it's Superman. Oh, he's fucking taking pics with the kids.
God.
The Snapchat at the beginning. I forgot.
Yeah, because while Superman would probably do that, it just, I don't know, it felt like a big overcorrection.
Yes.
This actually does it in a much better way. I actually really appreciated how Superman is written once he's back to life, after he's the worst ever for 2 movies.
Well, I think we've run long enough, so we should probably just close out the Justice League big segment, awesome, good, fun time part of the show with our just overall thoughts.
I'm someone who, as I mentioned previously, has really never been exposed to Snyder's content. And I honestly can't say I love his style. I just think it's interesting to a degree. And I will say that I kind of, while the Snyder Cut is insanely bloated and is 4 hours long.
4 hours.
I do 4 hours!
4 hours! 4 hours!
I do think that it did fix a lot of things with the original Whedon cut. But yeah, I think, a chief thing that it didn't fix is the runtime because, I don't know. Again, it's like, there's just been nothing like this. And it's so crazy that we're able to watch something like this and that it just went straight to a streaming service. Like, could you imagine? I mean, I don't know if any other studio has the balls to do something like this, other than Warner Bros.
Well, Netflix literally finished Orson Welles' last movie, so I don't know.
Yeah, but the other studios that release movies to theaters are pretty much all cowered out of ever doing director's cuts.
Yeah. No, you don't see director's cuts anymore. Warner Brothers, even just the Dawn of Justice cut of this, what's it called?
The Ultimate Cut.
Super Cut?
Yeah. You don't see even just that kind of stuff happening at other studios, so Warner Brothers is pretty good with that.
I mean, if you're interested in this type of thing and you want to see what because that's really what I was just fascinated to see, how it would be different, and I was fascinated to see what content would be 2 hours, because it's like 75 or 80% new stuff, and new meaning like we haven't seen it, not necessarily that it was reshot.
Yeah,
that was just sitting around and it got cut out, and when they completely gutted it the first time around to a degree where it's like it's not even a story anymore, and they recolor graded it. It looks like shit. And to be fair, yeah, I don't know how I feel about the drab, zero saturation color grade in the Snyder Cut, but at least it's what it was originally intended to look like. Same thing goes for how it was shot and all that. And overall, it's cool that he got to make it, and I'm sure it was a personal thing for him. And I think he's glad to move on to other things. And so let's get some other filmmakers making DC movies, please. Yeah. I would be interested to see, give me more Aquamans. Give some movies to some weird people.
Yeah. No, see, the best parts of this movie are like, you guys, I'm sure have not watched it, but if anyone's seen the director's cut of Kingdom of Heaven, the Ridley Scott movie, that theatrical release of that movie is just like a bland action-adventure historical picture, and then they add an hour that adds context and themes and performances to the movie. And it just kind of fleshes it out in like a real, genuine way and gives everyone like an arc. Even though the bad parts are still bad, like Orlando Bloom still can't act. But like the best parts of this are just like that, where it fleshes out the characters. It like adds these contexts and elements and ideas that you didn't even realize were in the original thing. And the movie's like, in case you haven't seen the Snyder Cut, but you have seen Justice League, the movie's even more like gutted than you think it is, because we added a bunch of random shit in the place of the like story.
Right, he didn't just omit things, he omitted them and also added his own shit in there,
like that Russian family
renders it. Yeah. Oh my god.
That is the worst edition of his version. I think is the family that inexplicably lives 5 miles away from Chernobyl.
Yes. And they're in the movie for like 15 minutes. They get like more screen time than Cyborg.
Yet somehow they're like they're just nothing and we're supposed to care about them, but you don't at all because they're not like actual characters, despite having like a lot of screen time.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Well, my counterpoint to that is that the Snyder Cut gave a lot more emphasis to a bunch of people that Steppenwolf kills trying to get the boxes, and I also don't care about them.
Yeah, that's fair. I just, I'll take Steppenwolf decapitating Amazons over a Russian family eating cereal. But I think this adds a lot of good context. I think it's too long. I think it was unnecessary to have like 3 or 4 scenes where Steppenwolf talks to Desaad. I think it like was unnecessary to have pretty much the entire epilogue didn't need to be in the movie. So like there's definitely stuff to cut. And yeah, there's just weird air in some of the early scenes that are just like not even like chunks. It's just like cut some seconds.
It feels like a rough cut, the beginning.
Yeah.
There's the opening sequence where Bruce Wayne is walking around these mountains to find the Aquaman, and it's like they used every shot they had of the mountains, and it goes on forever. Just all of these establishing shots. That's like a minute or more of the runtime.
Yeah. No, it is. And so, like, yeah, I think that there is a optimal version of this movie that's about 3 hours clean.
3 hours.
3 hours.
I do really appreciate this in terms of, yes, everything's more fleshed out. Everything makes sense now. There's some fun, just DC Universe stuff in this. I like hearing about the anti-life equation and fucking goofy fucking New Gods shit. I like the way that they depict Steppenwolf now, because they actually make it a plot point that Steppenwolf's like the 7th most important New God, instead of him just being the villain for no reason. They make it an element that he has to prove himself, and he tried to betray Darkseid, but he sucked too bad, and that gives him like a thing. He has like a basic thing, and they give everyone a basic thing besides Aquaman. But he got his own dope movie, so he won in the end. But anyway, the point is, I like that this has a consistent thing to it. I like Snyder's weird visual shit for the most part. I think he peaked with that in Watchmen, but, you know, this looks perfectly good most of the time. Like, weird. But, you know, I had a pretty decent time watching it. Part of it was the weird context of having a group Super Bowl party for the Snyder Cut.
Yeah, if you're going to watch it, if you're going to dedicate the 4 hours of your day, you may as well grab a bunch of your friends, get some drinks, and sit down and just make a time out of it. I think that's the best way to watch this.
No, I don't think it's a great movie. I don't think Snyder created the first Super Kino or whatever.
Yeah, it's not a masterpiece, but it's just a fucking crazy weird anomaly.
Yeah, you will not see anything else that's like this ever. So, you know, I recommend giving it a look. You might fucking hate it, but I had a pretty decent time with it. I liked the character arcs. I liked a lot of the weird set pieces, even though it's still a little digital smeary for me. But, you know, I generally liked it. Even though it's not like my favorite thing, but compared to the other two, I thought this was like a massive fucking improvement compared to Snyder's other DC stuff. I actually kind of liked people in this sometimes. I thought there were some cool scenes and things. I generally thought it was a fun enough time, though it is too long. So recommendation. Whether or not I think you'll like it, you should give it a look if you have HBO Max.
I'm coming from the same place. It doesn't matter. Everyone's watching this.
Yeah.
You don't have to recommend it because everyone's seen it out of curiosity.
This is the hot topic.
It is.
This is the big thing.
It is the hot topic, just like where all his fans shop.
It may have seemed through this episode like I hate this. I really don't. Just like I didn't hate the Whedon cut. The way I look at it is a bunch of new stuff is added. I think some of it's good and some of it's bad, and then you add that all together, it's kind of it doesn't go up or down in my book. I think that the first one was just a mediocre movie. I think this is mediocre. I still agree with you, Aaron, that this is definitely the best Snyder movie in this universe, but I still don't like Zack Snyder's things. I'm tired of every single fucking thing in the entire movie being a dick or a pussy. Every single thing is one of those two things, and it's stuff like that, and his general ideology is, in my opinion, what really makes his choices questionable when portraying these characters. There's a level of his personal beliefs that doesn't quite gel with everything. So then he has to make everything conform to his thing, and that's why I don't like Cyborg in this. He's a Snyder character because his character in other media is he's a guy who's overcome it, and he still remains positive despite all the terrible things, and he's fun and he says booyah, but here he's a depressed guy like every other fucking character.
That's true.
But I mean, yeah, it's a Snyder movie. It's a 4-hour Snyder movie. It's about exactly what I would have thought.
Did you see Snyder dab on those people on the internet?
No. What did he?
One of those like awful, terrible we make YouTube video thumbnails where like Brie Larson has laser eyes or whatever, like reactionary like garbage channels. They have been supporting the Snyder Cut for like forever, and like one of he was doing like a video call thing of some kind on like the day it premiered, and one of the 8,000 people in it was like one of them, and they did like a donation to his charity or whatever he was doing that for. And their company name or whatever popped up, and he saw it and he went, I don't want to be affiliated with those people. he was like, there's no place for being like a hateful shithead here. I just wanted to make like a movie, so I'm not affiliated with you guys at all. And it was just so funny because they in reaction have created, of course, like 8,000 hours of content in like a day about how Snyder has betrayed the Klan or whatever, and it's just so funny to me because he's just a fucking dude. He just likes some dumb shit or whatever. The man ain't out here trying to like turn the Hollywood into into a ultra right paradise or whatever. He's just a fucking dude, and him just publicly shitting on those people in like a super casual like, oh yeah, I'm not your friend. It was pretty funny. Good for you, Zach.
I guess the biggest positive, and I guess what I'll end the main discussion with, is what should be celebrated. You don't have to say it's good. It's not Zack Snyder having fun and being able to troll everyone by making a fake trailer where the Joker says we live in a society, and he's fucks with people on his weird social media.
Jared Leto thought of that apparently.
Oh.
Jared Leto pushed for we live in a society to be in the trailer, apparently.
Okay, well maybe not.
I mean,
maybe
it's hilarious.
I tried to say something positive, Aaron. You son of a fucking
sorry.
bitch. You had to say Jared Leto's name. Celebrate the fact that this exists, but it doesn't necessarily, just because it exists and it's a cool thing that happened, doesn't mean you have to think it's good. And I think that's just what's been annoying the shit out of me, is a lot of people saying it's good and praising it when really, and then all they have to say that's positive is it was rearranged to make a little bit more sense, which is true. That's a positive. But inherently, it's not a great thing immediately, like, of good quality that he made his vision. That's a positive for art and for movies.
For filmmaking, yeah.
Yes.
But that doesn't necessarily mean that the product is good.
Yes. I just want everyone to just think about that is, am I saying this is good because I think it's good, or am I saying it's good because it theoretically is a good thing? And I don't know. That's just been my hang up. It's not it doesn't really matter what other people think. It's just that's what's been occupying my mind for a while. I got to say congrats to Zach.
Yep, you won, big dog.
You win.
You did win. You fucking did it.
Yeah,
man.
You fucking did it, man. I shat all over you for many years, and I thought this was fine. And I'm glad you did whatever. It's not the best thing ever, 10 out of 10.
Well, okay.
Martin Scorsese says it's
yeah,
cinema.
yeah. Martin Scorsese himself told me it was cinema when he was at our screening. Yeah.
One last note is I called this like a week or two ago. I think I was on Discord with you guys, maybe even. I hope I was, but they're releasing this as a black and white version on HBO Max,
yeah.
which I called.
They are.
Oh yeah, I did see something about that.
Yeah.
It looks bad.
I haven't even looked at it yet.
They released just a clip as like a this is going to come out thing, and the contrast is just not there.
You can't do that with every movie.
Most stuff isn't shot for that at all, and sometimes when they're shot a little bit more for that, it doesn't fit the content or like whatever. Like the Mad Max one, which was a little bit less flat gray, but also was like the movie's about a green place.
Well, that's Snyder's thing, is he wanted it to be in black and white, but no studio is going to be like, yeah, the version the main version we're releasing is in black and white. So of course they're doing it again, but it's called Justice is Gray, which I fucking hate.
Oh my god!
It's actually shocking that they let him do the 4x3 thing with the main release.
Yeah.
It's shocking that it wasn't cropped to 16:9 or whatever, and then they put out the gray 4x3 one.
This has been a long episode.
Oh yes,
this is
just like
the 2-hour mark.
It's 50% as long as his movie.
Extra long episode for a fucking. I don't even know.
Content.
The cultural event of the year.
Sure was.
You could find us on all your favorite podcatchers at bargainbingepod.com. Email us with questions or just say hi at bargainbingepod@gmail.com. Our Twitter is @bargainbingepod. Here is the part where I play the clip for next week. So here's the reveal for next week's episode.
Let's see what I got here. It's like a volcano of DVDs about to erupt. What is it?
The Nut Job, Nutty by Nature.
Okay.
The sequel to The Nut Job, a film I have not seen.
Yeah, I've never seen that either.
A high quality pick.
Yeah, this is very good. This is a very good one.
All that being said, from friends to justice and
super friends everywhere.
Until next time, everyone. See ya.
See ya.
Adios.